It's a busy Monday morning at the office and everyone is hustling to get to their desks. An employee walks into the building and hurries towards the lift lobby, but the guard waves him away towards the stairs. The employee is upset and asks the guard why he can't use the lift. The guard says he doesn't know, but he has been told not to allow anybody to go to the lift lobby. As the employee grudgingly starts climbing to his office on the seventh floor, a colleague says there's some big shot coming from the head office and they've blocked the lift for him. The employee curses under his breath and proceeds to his desk. An hour later, he meets the same colleague at the coffee machine, and the colleague says, "Hey, the lift wasn't stopped for any big shot." The employee asks, "Then why was it stopped?" The colleague replies that he doesn't know, but it wasn't because of a VIP visit. Now, a few days later, if someone asks the employee who had climbed 7 floors, "Do you know why we were not allowed to use the lift the other day?" What do you think his reply would be? Does misinformation stick, or can it be replaced with facts? An experiment from 1994 sheds some light on it. I first heard it a few years ago on the Anecdotally Speaking Podcast. Hi, welcome back to Stories at Work, a series where I share real stories from across the world that you can use when you want to drive home a business point. Our website, storyworks.in, already has over 100 stories, and we are adding one every week. Let's start today's story. In 1994, two psychologists at Michigan University, Holland Johnson and Colin Seifert, did a very interesting experiment. They collected volunteers and divided them into two groups. Both groups were given a series of messages about a warehouse fire. It was simulated to feel as if there was a real fire in the warehouse, and they were getting these messages in real time. There were 13 messages in all. The first message was about a fire alarm raised by a security guard in a stationary warehouse. This was followed by a message a little later that the fire captain who had gone to investigate the fire had said that the fire was started by a short circuit in a closet. He followed up on this message with another message saying that he had been now told that the closet contained cans of oil paints and pressurized gas cylinders. Almost immediately after this message about the short circuit, oil paint cans, and gas cylinders, the participants in both the groups received a message that the previous information should be ignored, as new reports suggest that the closet was really empty. Now, while the messages to both the groups were the same till this stage, Group 2 now got an additional message that the actual source of the fire may have been located. Some petrol-soaked rags and an empty fuel drum was found, both of which raised the suspicion about possible arson. The rest of the messages about firefighters reaching the scene, some explosions happening, some firefighters getting injured, and the ultimate destruction of the warehouse was the same to both the groups. Now, after this simulation was over, both the groups were given a questionnaire. One of the questions was, what started the fire? Group 1, which had received the information about the short circuit, oil paint cans, and gas cylinders, and then asked to ignore it, didn't seem to be able to ignore it. They said that the fire started with a short circuit in a closet which contained oil paint cans and gas cylinders. They said this despite the fact that they had received a message asking them to ignore the previous message, as the closet was now reportedly empty. However, answering the same question, the second group was able to shift from the first story, and they said that the fire could have been arson, as petrol-soaked rags and an empty fuel tank had been found. So even though Group 1 was asked to ignore the misinformation, they couldn't. Group 2, on the other hand, was not only told to ignore the misinformation, but was provided with an even better story to replace the first story, and it worked. What a thought-provoking experiment. This experiment teaches us that no matter how many times we reiterate that what was previously shared was misinformation, it is not good enough because the story's already taken hold. The only way to address misinformation is to replace it with a more powerful story, not just facts and logic. Group 2 was able to throw away the first story about the short circuit and the oil paint cans and the gas cylinders because they got a more exciting arson story to replace the older story with. So, where in business can you use this story? Well, one is when you or someone else are dealing with misinformation. Remember that once a story is in someone's head, just giving facts will never work. You've got to have a better story. In the work I do on change management, I call these anti stories, stories that people have in their head about why the proposed change will not work. Most people try to use logic and data to put forward the reason why they think it will work, and the others should believe them, but that doesn't help. You need to tell a better story. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, there are many more on our website storyworks.in. See you next week. Bye for now.